that tells you everything you need to know, because you feeling that way is like, why? Why do you feel that way? Let's talk about it.
Were you good in school? Like, did you good grades? Like,
No, I had a learning disability. I had severe ADHD, couldn't focus, not book smart at all. Really, unless I was really interested in something, I just couldn't.
did you know who your dad was growing up?
I didn't. I thought I knew. I thought my dad was the same dad as my older brother. That became my drug. That became my alcohol. Hyper focused on that. Went hardcore on it and freaking paid off, man. I outworked everybody.
From the quiet streets of Urbana, Ohio, to the bright lights of sold-out stages nationwide, he's the voice of resilience, the face of viral comedy, and the heart behind over 500 million views online. Once battling addiction and homelessness, now celebrating nearly a decade of sobriety, he's turned life's toughest punches into punchlines that uplift and inspire. With his signature "You Got a Dollar" pranks and razor-sharp crowd work, he's not just a comedian, he's a movement. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for the unstoppable force of laughter and authenticity of Damon Darling. Damon Darling, my guy, man. Welcome to the Maxed Out Studio. How you doing, brother?
What's up, bro? I'm good.
You good?
I am good. I'm awake, ready to get the day started.
Well, I appreciate you stopping in, man. I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah.
On tour all over the country, man. Selling out shows.
Selling some shows out. Yeah, quite a bit of them.
Yeah, you've been everywhere, man. But, I think, man, one of the crazy things about having you in the studio today is you have such an incredible story.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And I really want to dig into that, man. So we're just going to go right into it. You all right with that?
Yeah,
You good
I'm
with that?
fine. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm going to dig up the dirt, bro. Like, I'm going to pull it all out of you today.
Everybody has a story, man. I feel like everyone has a story. Mine is definitely unique.
So let's start, man. Let's start.
Yeah.
Let's start from childhood, bro. Like you grew up in Urbana, Ohio, which
Yeah.
if some people aren't familiar with that, it's about 45 minutes outside of Dayton, Ohio. But it's a small town, dude.
Small. It's like what, less than 10,000 people in Urbana?
It's small.
It's tiny.
And there ain't a lot of black dudes.
No. There's a few more. By few, I literally mean 3 more than like when I was growing up. But yeah, there's barely any color there.
So it's a typical rural kind of like farmy style Ohio town. How was it growing up as a black male in like a little country town like that in Urbana, Ohio, man?
For me, personally, it was tough, man. I felt like I just never fit in really. Luckily I ended up being goofy. Like people laughed at me a lot, whether I was trying to be funny or not. And then I realized I guess I could make people laugh, and I kind of used that to kind of get in the in crowd and get friends and be able to hang out with the cool kids and get people to like me, because people like to laugh, so they'd keep me around for that reason.
Now you say that you didn't really feel like you fit in. Was it because of race? Was it because of just?
I feel like it was a lot of different things. I mean, I think a lot of it was me and my insecurities and just my POV of things, but I just, not looking like people, not looking like everyone around you, and that can play a big part of, how you feel about yourself, especially as a kid,
Yeah, and I think for you, I read somewhere that your mom was black, right?
My mom was mixed.
Oh, your mom was mixed.
Yeah, so
what
my
was your
mom
mixed with?
my German and black. So my mom's mother is German, and then my mom's dad was black.
So is your mom's mom, is she mixed with black, or is she just
No,
German?
she's just a white German lady.
Just a white German.
Yeah, who
So you kind of grew up in an
men.
interracial family already a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you go to school and you're one of the few black guys, like I can imagine that it probably didn't feel like crazy for you, but then
Yeah.
the way maybe kids reacted, or you're one of the few.
Well, I think a lot of
minorities,
what
it
it
was a little bit
was just how, how you could feel when you could feel the teachers treating you different. You could feel the adults treating you different. You could feel like when I went to a restaurant or I went to a store, you could feel how you got treated different. And because you saw how everybody else got treated, and then you would see how you get treated. And also just the jokes. I would have to like tolerate racial jokes as when I got older. Pretty much tolerate it or just let everyone know that it really beat me down and made me sad, and then they get that satisfaction, and I'm just a depressed dude. You know what I mean? So I would just tolerate it and laugh with them, and I would even add to the jokes. Like, yeah, because that's how bad I wanted to just fit in and be liked and be accepted. And I think once they saw, oh man, this guy, we can't really tear this guy down. Like they kind of just backed off a little bit, and that was pretty much it.
Is that why you mess with so many white people today now?
No, I think what I do in my videos is like I'm bridging the gap, man. Like I feel like you don't see enough people my age that look like me talking to older white people out in public, or just in general. And I feel like why aren't we doing that? Like
Right.
we're all people. Like I try not to look at things in a racial aspect. I love everybody, despite how I grew up and things I went through. Like I just feel like, and then obviously the humor naturally comes with these videos, right? Because it's awkward. It's you're not used to seeing it. You're wondering, what am I doing? What is this guy doing? Talking. You might use the term messing with these old folks, but really I'm just having conversations with them. Like
Yeah.
I'm conversating with them. I can't talk to an older white person. Why?
I mean, that captures people right off the bat, right? You got like an
Yeah.
older white person or a Meemaw, if you
Yeah.
will, and a black dude with dreads and some tattoos.
Yeah.
Like that immediately captures the public,
Yeah.
saying like, all right, what's going on in this
Right.
video?
And that tells you everything you need to know, because you feeling that way is like, why? Why do you feel that way? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So
So-
school, let's talk about that, man. Like you obviously you have some insecurities. You feel a certain way because you're one of the few
Yeah.
minorities in the school. Were you good in school? Like, did you good grades? Like,
No, I had a learning disability. I had severe ADHD, and I just couldn't focus. Not book smart at all. Really, unless I was really interested in something, I just couldn't really progress in it. And so I ended up getting into special ed classes. And once I got into those classes, my grades really went up. They improved. I was getting like A's and B's, but I mean, the work was easy.
yeah,
We was in there doing like 1+1. I would fly through. I was like the smartest one in those classes. I was looking around like, man, I'm the cool one. Everybody liked me. They thought I was cool. I had friends that were in regular classes. They couldn't believe it. Amazing.
So you mentioned you have ADHD. You had ADHD, or that's what
Still
they told
have it. Mm.
you. Which is like that's one of the most common used
It is.
terms by doctor. And
Don't downplay it though.
Were you medicated? Were you on medication
Yeah,
at that time?
I was sedated, drugged, controlled. I had they tried me out on Ritalin first, and I mean it helped. I definitely could focus more, but I just felt like a zombie, man. And so I switched from that to Adderall, and Adderall really wasn't much better. I just didn't like how I felt on those medications because it would strip me of my personality.
Yeah.
Like my friends would always come up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing your work for? What'd you do? Take your medicine?" And they'd be like, "Why?" Because they would want me to make them laugh and stuff. They'd be
Right.
like, "Why you ain't? What's wrong with you today?" "Oh, you must have took your medicine." They'd make fun of me. "Oh, he took his medicine. He ain't gonna be clowning today." And then that would get me down. I'd be like, "Man, I gotta entertain these fools. Like, I gotta, I gotta do my job for my friends. So I'm not taking this pill."
Yeah. Well, now you're an adult. You've
Yeah.
you've seen a lot now over the years. Have you developed an opinion on like ADHD and medicating kids that Yeah, because there's a lot of kids, man, including my own kid.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I feel like it's something a lot of people deal with. There's definitely levels to it. I don't know, man. I think what it really boils down to is, man, you gotta be interested in what you're learning. You gotta care about it in order to progress. And I feel like that's how I finally ended up finding something that I was able to be successful in, is because I was passionate about it. I cared about it. I was interested. And I feel like they could do that in schools. They could use that same concept, you know?
Yeah, one of the things that frustrates me is our school system, and
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Not every kid learns the same way,
Mm-mm.
and my kid's one of them. He does not like school, right? Like
No.
he's a very smart kid.
Yeah.
My two daughters, they're like 4.7, four point
Yeah.
five, like they're super book smart. But my, my younger son doesn't like school, and I've had the
Yeah.
conversations with his teachers. My kid can talk about day trading. He can talk about running a business. He can
See?
create a business plan. Like he can talk about politics,
Yeah.
world views, like anything. Like he's just
Yeah.
one of those kids. He's a lot like me. Like he has all this crazy knowledge in his head
Yeah.
because he educates himself on the internet. He researches things.
Right.
But you say, hey man, 2 apples plus 3 oranges, like how
Right.
many cars does that equal? Well, I don't even know the answer to that, but he
Yeah.
definitely doesn't know the answer to
Yeah.
that. And I think the quick thing in society now is, doctors immediately want to medicate a lot
Yeah.
of our kids. And if there's parents out there that are kind of hearing that, like, hey, you dealt with this as a kid and you have kids now too.
Mhm.
Um, what like at what point do you feel like kids need medicated? And at what point do you feel like, man, parents should really try some alternative measures before they
Yeah.
medicate a kid? Or do you think they should all, yes, like let's drop some medication with them?
I feel like if you're not violent, physically harming people, then let's keep trying to figure this out. Let's try alternatives. Let's try programs and therapy and, different ways of learning. Unfortunately, you kind of got to have money to get these other options of teaching. But yeah, in my opinion, I feel like if you're not violent or coming off like you might bring harm to an entire school, like I'd say like be patient on and hold off on the medication thing, because we went through that with one of my kids and I just didn't like what the medication was doing to him. And I pulled the plug on it. And then I mean, I was kind of against it altogether in the beginning because he was just too young, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was only like 8 or 9. I'm like, he's supposed to be acting like that. He's a kid. Like, were we trying to make him an adult at 9? We want him to act like an adult? Like, this is absurd. Like, all for what? So he can bring home a report card with straight A's? Like, that's stupid of us the fact that we think like that is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'd rather him have all F's and just be a kid, you know? Because you think about it, he's going to grow up. He's going to end up taking the career path he wants, anyways. Let's say he did get straight A's and graduates, and then just becomes a professional video game player.
Yeah.
Like, what was the point,
Exactly.
dude? You know what I mean? He's going to do what he. So it's just not that important. I don't feel like. Like, am I going to encourage him to be a low life and to just not be try to take entrance and educate himself? No, I'm not going to encourage that. But I'm also not going to act like it's freaking life or death if he doesn't get great grades.
You got to go to school because you
Yeah.
have to go to school.
Yeah.
Like that's what you have to do in society.
Right.
But school should not define what you do in your life.
No, and it doesn't. I'm a product of it.
Yeah.
I'm a prime example of it. I mean, I went to school with plenty of people that got great grades, took college courses before they graduated high school, and now I make more money than them. So it's
And
like
now they're asking you for your autograph,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's the same thing.
Now they want to take pictures with me. They come to my shows, and it's like I don't feel like I'm better than any of them. I'm just using myself as an example of there's so many ways to become successful,
Right.
especially nowadays, and that's not the one way,
Yeah. Now, growing up in Urbana, you grew up with your mom in the home, but your father wasn't around, right?
No. I did have one of my stepdads that was around for a couple of weeks, but then he went to prison.
So was there any real male role model in your home at the time?
My mom was pretty hardcore, so I would say she definitely brought that testosterone sometimes. But no, just moms, and then my grandma all the way up until she passed. It was just pretty much them two.
Yeah. Now, do you think you were affected by that growing up without having that male? I mean, obviously there's some
Um,
effect, but how do you think that affected you growing up through school and how things went for you early on, not having a father figure in the home?
well, I did have my grandfather for like when I was young. I would say probably all the way up to maybe 10, uh, maybe a little less than that. So I do remember moments with him. But yeah, absolutely affected me, man. Because I mean, I reacted not. I don't want to say this in a way to offend women, but I would react to things how my mom would react to things. That's the only example I had of how to act was my mother. And you need both. You need your dad and your mom, So I feel like it definitely affected me. And then I craved that attention from a man, I my friends when I'd go over their houses and they'd have a dad and they'd be their dad be talking to them about sports or playing football with them or just having that interaction with a dad, I yearned for that. I wanted that. And there were just things I wasn't comfortable talking to my mom about, you
Sure.
know? So,
Like when you're 13 and start getting
yeah,
pubic
bro.
hair and first time you
Exactly.
realize you got something down there. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
it's like so I just wouldn't talk to her about it, and I just had to figure it out on my own, and, a lot of that could have went a lot smoother for me if I had a dad, or talking to I didn't wanna talk to her about girls, or there was just a lot of
well,
stuff.
in that time, TikTok and all the social media stuff, like, it wasn't big. Like, you couldn't just go on and research what you
Nah.
like, now kids, 12, 13,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can get on and you can kinda learn
And
what you're
not
supposed to
to not
do.
to bring attention to my age, but we had dial up.
Yeah,
It took forever, and then even once you did get connected, all it took was a phone call to kick you back off, or and we had the slowest of slowest connections. So it was like half the time we'd connect, it wouldn't even work. So yeah, I didn't have internet. We
Did you guys
had
have Cinemax in the home?
no. I mean, every
So,
now and then,
okay, let's go back to that real
yeah,
quick. I
yeah,
don't graze over this because I'm gonna ask you this. I grew up very poor too.
yeah.
Well, I'm not saying you grew up poor, but I grew up in a
No,
poor
we
home. I grew
we
up in a trailer
did.
court. And we didn't have Cinemax, we didn't have HBO.
Yeah,
But at that time, I remember being a 13-year-old boy and I got Cinemax pulled up and it's like all the lines across it because you can't see and you don't get
yeah,
and
yeah,
you're waiting for the right moment where it just kind of opens up and you can see it
yeah.
just a little
Daddy.
bit.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
No, it was actually this is what I would do. So we either had cable or we didn't. And I don't know if you remember or if any of you remember, but when Time Warner Cable used to go door to door
Uh-huh.
and they'd give you 6 months free of cable. They'd be like, yeah, you could just sign up 6 months free, completely free. And my mom would do that every now and then. And she'd be like, now, once the 6 months is up, that's it. And so we would get it for 6 months at a time every now and then when they would run that special. And we would read how it would tell you like, oh, if this was going to have certain things in the movie, like, oh, brief nudity. You could
Uh-huh.
read the info on what you're about to watch. It'd be like brief nudity or da-da-da. Me and my brothers be like, oh, brief nudity.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we're watching this. And you just wait for the brief nudity scene. And
That's
then,
funny.
man, that's what I would do. And I just kind of lock that image in. But that was the closest thing to, you know, porn that I got.
All right, I've never told this story before, but I feel comfortable with you. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
It was my solution at 13, 14 years old. I stole my dad's credit card information.
Mm,
And at that time, Girls Gone Wild was like huge.
mm.
And
Oh, I
then
remember that.
and when you bought them or like when you paid for them, like they would always offer you free subscriptions to like all kinds of other stuff.
Hmm.
So I ordered the Girls Gone Wild with my dad's credit card, and then it got me like a free 3 or 6 month subscription to like Playboy or something. So
Hmm.
I knew when our mail ran because at that time they weren't being delivered. It wasn't like FedEx, UPS. It was like standard mail.
Yeah.
So I would hurry home before my mom and dad got home, get all the mail, get it in my bedroom. Like they never knew that I was getting all this
Right,
stuff
right.
until a credit card statement came. My dad, like, well, do you know anything about this? And I think my dad never even like he didn't bring it up for a while
Yeah.
because he wasn't the best of dudes anyway. So he's thinking like maybe he forgot he did
Maybe
it.
he
You know what
did
I'm
it.
saying?
Yeah, I was high or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And like they didn't know I don't even think my mom and dad know to this day that I was doing that or how those charges ended up on the
Yeah.
credit card. But man, when I was an adult moving out of my house, I had boxes and boxes full of like Playboy magazines from like the
Oh
1990s.
man.
And every Girls Going Wild video at that time, like every location they were in. Like
Yeah.
I had all the VHS.
I remember the
Tapes.
commercials, the late night commercials of the Girls Going Wild.
Uh-huh.
I'd be like, man, that looks so fun.
Now I feel horrible about it because there's all
Oh.
kinds of documentaries out there about girls that were filmed during those times
Oh
that are
yeah.
having all the regrets and like, and not good things were happening to them.
Well, yeah, because they were intoxicated, right?
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
probably had them signing stuff while they're drunk.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Girls Going Wild, they had, girls that, beautiful girls that would travel around with them.
Mhm.
And they were the ones that would recruit. They were the
Oh,
recruiters.
So it was like trafficking in a sense.
Yeah.
Like the Epstein chick.
Exactly like
Oh
that,
my
right? Like they
goodness.
would have beautiful girls out there.
When we gonna find
They'll get
these girls and put them under the jail?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
this
They're
is
out
wild.
there though, but
Yeah.
they had recruiters around with them, and that's how they got these girls to do. They go out and start partying with them, and next thing you know, like, hey, like we got a bus. When we go on the bus, and
Yeah.
like here's a non-disclosure agreement.
Want to
here's
make $300?
That's
Yeah.
it, man. That's it.
That's wild.
Anyway, well, I took part in ordering the video, so I feel guilty.
Yeah, they need to get you too.
I mean, I guess subpoena at some point.
Nah,
here-
you're a
here
kid,
soon.
man. No.
All right. So did you graduate high school?
I didn't. I dropped out, I think my junior year. And this was around the time my stepdad was getting out of prison in California in San Diego. And I wanted to just leave. I was done with, I had big dreams. I wanted to go out and be an actor and like start doing auditions. I wanted to chase fame. And so my stepdad let me come out and live with him. And I remember looking for auditions in the paper and stuff. And I pretty much got cold feet and never ended up doing any of that stuff. I just wasn't ready. I was still too scared, too insecure. And just basically partied for a while, ended up coming back to Ohio. I was supposed to get my GED out there, but my dad never helped me figure out how to do that. I was still, underage at the time, and he had to sign me up for all that. But,
Yeah. That was your mom living in San Diego at the time with your stepdad?
Nah, she was still in Ohio. So when I came back, I ended up going to Job Corps. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I went to Job Corps. I got like a little trade in like business tech. It's like data entry. I choose the easiest trade I could
Sure.
do. And I got my GD, so they paid for all that. So, and they let you live on the campus. They give you like a little room. You get a roommate. It's like the most ghettoest shit ever. But it was a place to stay. I got food. I got a little allowance. So it was like heaven to me, man, because I didn't have nowhere to go. I was homeless. And, I got my GED.
So your biological dad, he's not in the home. Did you know who your dad was growing up?
I didn't. I thought I knew. I thought my dad was the same dad as my older brother, which was hilarious because we didn't look anything alike. He's like your shade, and he has like a blonde fro. He has like curly hair, but it's blonde. And I always wondered, man, how did he get that gene? Like, I would always rack my brain, but I'm like, oh well, niggas come in all shapes and sizes. And it was so I just never really gave it much thought. I just kind of just went on with life. And then I remember one of the apartment complexes we lived in, this guy would always come and cut the grass for the complex. And I never really thought nothing of that. Obviously, he's just a guy cutting the grass, but I remember him. Fast forward, when I turned like 18, my stepdad had got out of prison. He had told me, he was like, hey, I think you need to know this and blah, blah, blah. We've been keeping this from you, but your real dad is so-and-so. And I knew who the guy was. I knew of him. I had never really like hung out with him or anything. And turns out it was the guy who used to come cut the grass at the complex. and then I knew a couple of kids in the neighborhood, or not in our neighborhood, but in Urbana, that he was also their dad too. So it was just kind of a moment. It was kind of embarrassing, bro. I ain't gonna lie, I cried.
Yeah.
I was kind of tore up by it. Um, I don't want to go too much into it, but
Well, I always wondered if my dad was the milkman, but you
yeah,
wondered if yours was the lawn cutter.
yeah, it was the lawn cutter. But long story short, uh, guess he didn't want his wife to find out. He didn't want to mess up his marriage. I guess that was a little more important than uh, me having a pops, man.
Yeah.
But honestly, how I turned out, and you know, my mom was enough. My mom was enough,
Yeah.
dude.
Sounds
I
like you had
did.
a great woman in your life, but
Yeah, and honestly, he wasn't the greatest guy anyway. So it was. I kind of look at it as I was just being protected. You know.
yeah, there's more to it though, right? And I want to talk about it for a second because we were actually talking about stats before the show, and when you look up stats for black males that don't have a father in their home, the
Hmm.
stat I was surprised by, but it's like 47.5%, right? Compared to white males
Yeah.
growing up that don't have fathers in their home, which is only like 20%. And I guess when I look at your story and you're out here and you didn't always win, right? Like, and we'll talk about that, but you're
Mm-mm.
winning now. You're doing good things, man. You're doing
Yeah.
big stuff. You're famous and you're traveling and you're selling out comedy shows. You have an incredible internet following,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of young males out there, specifically black males that feel, and I don't want to speak for them because I'm a white
Right.
guy and I don't want
I'll
to pretend
say
like I
it.
know,
I'll say
but
it.
you can say
I
it.
feel like a lot of them think there's only one way to get it, or maybe not many ways to get it, and or maybe like it's impossible for them to get it. And by it, I mean like success or become or money or or just and I'm just I'm proof. I'm proof, and I'm not the only one, but I'm proof in my area. Not many from my area have been able to achieve what I have achieved, and I'm just proof that it you can do it, bro. You can do it no matter where you're at, no matter how much opportunity is available where you're at. Nothing. There's no reason or no thing that can stop you uh, in this country from achieving some sort of success one way or another legally. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many ways, bro. I mean, you got the internet now, social media. If you got a phone, you can make something happen, man.
I think we all have, everybody has a story
Mm-hmm.
and everybody comes from a different walk of life. And I'm always interested by everybody's by stories.
Mm-hmm.
As I teach entrepreneurship and I mentor people in business and everything else, I hear it a lot of times. And for me, I grew up poor. I grew up in Charlotte Court, very poor, no financial literacy. I got out and, fucked
Mm-hmm.
up when I was an adult with finances and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I feel like I was so disadvantaged growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I've made it and I've done
Yeah.
well. And I look at guys like you and your story is a little bit different. You didn't have a father in your home.
Mm-mm.
And that was obviously a disadvantage for you compared to others. But I think there's so many guys like you and I out there,
Yeah.
whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Hispanic, that have some type of story that when they think about it, it's like, man, I was at such a disadvantage,
Yeah.
but we made it and we found a way out.
Right.
And I think that's the message, right? Is like, it's up to us.
It is. It is up to you. And I feel like I wasn't as poor as you. I didn't live in a trailer park.
You didn't
But
eat like
yeah, we
spam
had
12 different ways every
there
week.
our building had a foundation and brick and
Yeah, I was scared of windstorms, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, bro.
I didn't know if it was going to
You had
tip
like
over or not.
he was living in a tornado snack. But no, we I think for a long time and it's easy to start believing in it's easy to fall into that woe is me.
Yeah.
or there's no way I can do it because of my situation, or my situation is way worse than yours. And I fell into that for a long time where I blamed everyone around me. I blamed my situation. I blamed being black. I blamed racism. I blamed not being book smart. And I just always had a reason of why. Well, yeah, you're success. I would be successful like that, but I can't because of this, this, and this. And I would just always, woe is me, man. And it's everybody else's fault. It's not mine. And then I finally just got tired, and I was just like, nah, man, I'm not accepting defeat. I'm not settling. I'm going after it, you know? And I would see, so I mean, just turning on the TV and seeing other black successful people, I knew it was possible, you know. There's black celebrities. So I would see that and I'm just like, it is possible.
Yeah.
These niggas are rich. So I can do it. I know I can.
How much fault do you think that the media should take um, for making young people feel that way? And I feel like our media tries to pit us against each other all the time. Like,
Absolutely.
how do you conquer that? Or like, how do you, if you're a young person, specifically in your scenario, or you're a young black
Mm.
male growing up, don't have a father in the home, and your family's not great off financially, like, how do you conquer not listening to what the media tells you and trying to hold you down and saying, you know what, I can get out, man. I can do this. I can do big shit. Like,
I
what's
think
the trick?
they definitely have some accountability, and they they need to take responsibility for some things, because they definitely portray things sometimes in a way that's not okay, and they definitely create division sometimes. And I just feel like the media in general focuses on negativity way too much. I feel like they should have to, by law, post positive stories along with their negative narratives. Like, I mean, my goodness, there are good things going on in
Yeah.
the world.
Like, we need a positive quota.
And it would do wonders for our mental health if they did that. I mean, I just don't watch anymore because mentally it's so draining. I can't stand it, you know? And it's like you don't even have to. I mean, if it's important enough, I'll hear it through somebody,
Yeah.
you know? But I just mentally, for my peace, I just can't. I was watching the news so much, I was having panic attacks, like I was breaking out in hives. That's how stressed it had me. And it's like, as long as they get their ratings, huh? Like, forget everybody else and their sanity and their peace. Do you need to be informed? Yes, but to what extent? I mean, I can't change none of this stuff. You telling me, oh my God, we're going to war with Russia and da, da, da. Okay, great. What should I do? Like, what do you want me
Yeah.
to do about that? I gotta go to work. Like, my rent's due.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't understand, like, what should I do? Like, are you hear people, you better prepare. I don't understand people not preparing, they not woke, but we finna, it's finna go down in civil war. I'm like, okay, brother, how would you like me to prepare? What do you want me to do? Get a bunch of guns so I can maybe take out one person before I die? Like, what's the point in that? Like, if there's gonna be a civil war, then it's over with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a wrap.
I
Like,
think what's
I'm not
incredible.
gonna be able to stop it.
No, well, yeah, that's it. What do they want us to do? But
That
I think what's
that's why
incredible is if you listen to two news channels at the exact same time
Mhm.
about the exact same incident, what's incredible to me is how there can be two absolutely, completely different views,
Different,
intakes
yes.
on what's going on. And that's why I choose
Yes.
just tune it all out, man. I'm like, whatever.
I give it to God, man. I'm telling you, God's the only way, you know, and I respect anybody for what they believe, but if you're atheist, I don't understand how you have any peace. Like, to have zero hope is terrifying.
Right.
Like, you know, and I just give it to God, man. I'm like, yo, I'm being the best person I can be. At the end of the day, God got me. If this all crashes and burns, I'm gonna end up with God. So I mean, I'm not worried about it, bro. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. God's will is gonna be God. It's gonna happen regardless. So I just give it to Him. I put the most positivity out in the world that I can. I try to be the best person that I can. I am a comedian at the end of the day, so you know, every now and then people are going to say, well, you're not being the best person messing with people and da da da. Man, I'm trying to make people laugh. I'm trying to
Right.
make people smile. I'm trying to make this not so serious. And if you want to judge me for it, judge me for it. But I mean, I'm a comic, and it's not easy to be a comic because not everybody wants to laugh. Not everybody wants to joke about things, but I mean, it's what I do. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I think, comedy's so important in our lives, man, honestly. Eh, You got to be able to laugh. You got to be
you
able to have
have
fun.
to.
And I think it's important in society. It gets a lot of
Yeah.
people through things. But if you're somebody that's offended by absolutely everything,
Yeah.
like life just sucks for you anyway. You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, the Bible talks about the importance of laughter and humor, and it's like when I stopped being so serious and just like learning to laugh at myself, laugh at my situation, and that's when I became happier. It's not, I can't change it anyways. So you moping and whining and crying and venting to everybody and making it your main focus until it gets fixed, none of that's going to do anything. It's still going to be the problem's still going to be there.
Exactly.
Whining and crying is not going to change it. You might as well get you some laughs. I mean, it's going to unfold how it's going to unfold. And
Yeah.
once I started looking at life like that, I became a lot more happy. I had a lot more peace. Everybody around me became happier. And if you have kids and a family, you're not doing them a service by sitting there stressing out and worrying. They supposed to be you the rock. They supposed to be relying on you, and you the leader. So what if the leader's crumbling? What's the rest of the army going to do?
Yeah.
You got to stand tall for them. So now when things are rough, I don't do that. I don't go to my kids and be like, I don't know what we gonna do, niggas. We might get evicted this week. Like why would I put that on my kids?
Yeah,
You
like your
know,
family, your wife, your kids, like your family, they need you to be that strong
strong. They
guy.
need you to be strong.
They need to be that strong guy. And oftentimes that means as
Yeah,
guys that we suppress and we push down things at times
yeah,
because we don't want our family to see that. We don't want them to see the stress. Like we
yeah,
want them to know that like I got you. You're safe with
yeah.
me. And that affects our mental health sometimes, man.
All it does, yeah.
But as we kind of talk about that and we talk about, you going through school and struggling a little bit and at some point you began an addiction with alcohol, right?
Mhm.
When was that? Like at what period in your life did you start drinking?
I had my first beer when I was like 16 and a half, maybe. And I mean, it's gonna sound crazy, but literally right after I had that beer and I felt like how it made me feel, that buzz, I loved it. I loved how it tasted immediately. They say it's an acquired taste. I loved that taste right
You're
off.
you're born with a gene in your
Oh
body
yeah,
like tastes like I hate the taste of beer.
there was drunk niggas flowing all through my veins. They was just waiting to be ignited.
Yeah.
Like, wake us up, nigga. Let's get this party started. But yeah, man, I just loved the taste. I loved how it made me feel. It gave me confidence. It kind of made me forget things I worried about because I was like an excessive worrier, and I always thought of the worst situation possible with everything, and it took all that away for me, and it just made me feel better. So from that point on, pretty much I wanted to party and drink. And of course I wasn't drinking all the time at 16. It was pretty much just when there'd be a party and everybody else was drinking. But eventually it got out of control. It got to the point where that's all I thought about. That's all I wanted to do. And right out of high school and into my early 20s and pretty much throughout my I that's all I did, you know, was drink. And
At what age do you feel like, man, I was definitely an alcoholic at that age?
mm, I'd probably say like 18. 18,
18.
probably like 18, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, cuz I was already out of school. I was trying to go to college. I'd be in and out of colleges trying, but I never succeeded. Sometimes I would just join a college so I could get a dorm and have
Yeah.
somewhere to stay. Uh, but Yeah, man, I just love to drink. That
So
was
were
my
you
thing.
addicted to the social drinking, or was it something about the alcohol, like you had to have alcohol in your system?
No, the social aspect of it actually did play a major part because I didn't like to be alone. I hated being alone. I loved to be around people and entertain them, make them laugh, and just be this, try to be the center of attention. That was definitely part of the drug, part of the addiction. But it got to a point where physically my body needed it. Like if I wasn't drinking or had no booze in my body, I would shake. I
Mhm.
would get my anxiety would be real bad. Um, I wouldn't communicate as well. I would have a short fuse. It got definitely to a point where my body needed it to function. You know, and yeah, that's where I ended up.
Now I heard you say it earlier that you had, quite a few insecurities growing up, which is completely contrary to who you are
Yeah,
now because I'm not saying you don't still have insecurities because I think a lot
yeah,
of us
yeah.
that have had them like always have them. We just find a way to do it.
Right.
But do you think alcohol was part of what got you over insecurities to be the
Oh
center of
yeah,
attention and tell the jokes and like
it definitely helped. It definitely helped. I want to say, even though I was extremely insecure, I did have a bit of fearlessness in me always from day one, more so than I feel like other people around me, which is weird. I know it sounds weird, like it doesn't make sense, but I feel like you can still be insecure and confident at the same time. You know
man,
what I mean?
you
Like you can,
I know exactly what
yes,
you mean. Like that's
and
that's how I felt growing up, man.
yes,
I had all these
you can hide it.
insecurities, but everybody thought I was an arrogant,
E-
confident dude.
There you go. Yeah,
But
that's
inside, I was tore up inside.
exactly. That's kind of more how I was. And but yeah, the alcohol would help with how I felt inside, you know, if that makes any sense. And but yeah, yeah, it definitely did help me get over it. Not enough to where I was like ready to full on like get on stage and chase my dreams, cuz initially I wanted to rap at first. I wanted to be a rapper.
You got the floor. You got a freestyle for us?
Nah. No.
So how are you paying your bills at this time? Like if you're battling alcohol, obviously I can only I mean
I'm not.
you got to spend money. So how are you getting money to pay for alcohol and everything else?
I'm not paying my bills. Don't really have any bills.
Yeah.
I was sleeping on couches of my friends and cousins and um yeah, I didn't really have any bills that needed paid. I was relying on women financially, and stealing, you know. Um that's pretty much how I was getting by, bumming off my mom and anybody I could bum off of.
So how are you getting the
Every now
alcohol
and
to
then
feed
I
the
would
addiction?
have a job. Every now and then I would have like a little crappy job,
Yeah.
minimum wage job, but I'd never keep it long, you know.
Now you worked at Walmart for a little bit when you were younger, right?
Yeah. And older.
And
Yeah.
so you were skipping around job. I mean, like, so to feed the addiction and the alcohol, how are you doing that? How are you getting money to do that?
Well, I wasn't
Or
always buying it. I'd steal it a lot of the time.
really?
Yeah. I'd just steal it. We'd go in, not just me and my friends. So we'd go in department stores and just walk out with it.
Statute of limitations are up on theft, so we're
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah, we'd steal it. And yeah, it was sad, man. Sad, sad time.
Yeah, now you're out in San Diego, you're working some odds and ends jobs. Like, what was the moment? Like, what was there a rock bottom moment for you with the alcohol piece, and what was it?
Yeah, I think at this point I had two kids. I was living out of my car. Alcohol hadn't made me feel good in a long time. I was kind of like chasing that high of like in high school of when it was like parties and having a good time and when it felt good,
Right.
and cuz nothing's like the first time, right? And I was kind of chasing that again, and I just never got that feeling again. I was just getting more and more depressed because alcohol's a depressant,
Hmm.
and I was just tired, bro. I was tired of bumming. I was tired of you know um, relying on women. I was tired of going back to my mom's, begging to sleep on the couch until I got back on my feet. I was just tired. I was exhausted and I felt horrible. My conscience was so heavy and I felt so guilty about not being there for my kids, financially, or even just being there like I should be as a dad, and not doing my part and not being able to take care of me, and I'm a grown man. Like that was the worst feeling in the world. As a man, if you don't feel shitty when you can't take care of yourself, man, I'd love to see what that feels like because
Yeah.
I always felt crappy. Like, um, and so that was pretty much it, man. And then just the alcohol, I felt like it was killing me, man. My body felt horrible. I didn't feel good, you know? And I just wanted to feel better and I wanted more out of life. And um so that's pretty much what did it
A lot of
for me.
people, that battle with addiction with alcohol. And my father was an alcoholic, and um, I saw him kick the
Mhm.
addiction, and I watched him through growing up in his life as being a
Mhm.
sober man, and how he always had to battle it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and from the time I was 6, my dad was sober all the way growing up. Never drank another beer, never did anything. He did really good with it. Went to church, like,
Mhm.
he wasn't a great man. All right, I'm not saying
Right.
that, but with the alcohol, he at least found a way to kick it. And it wasn't until like the last 2 years of his life when he was sick and had some cancers and things like that. Um, and I didn't talk to my dad a lot as an adult. I mean, we talked, but we didn't have a great relationship. But I remember in the last couple years of his life, he was like, like, I'm gonna die. I know that, and
Mhm.
I want to have a couple drinks again. And like
Mhm.
last 2 years of life, he had a few beers every once in a while, and it was okay with it. And he's like, I just want to, have that feeling again before I pass in this world. But he stayed sober forever. But I watched the battle that he always had with it,
Mhm.
and how careful he had to be. But a lot of people get to those moments where they have a rock bottom point,
Mhm.
but they don't kick the addiction.
I know, and I don't understand. No, I do understand that. I don't want to say I don't understand that because I was really, I mean, it was so close. It was like neck and neck of me making the decision to just keep going because it's so hard to change. You get in a routine, you get comfortable. It's just easier to stay where you're at. It takes effort to change. You really have to try. You got to make changes, which is hard. But I think my desire to be successful, like my love for comedy and all that, and just to desire to, I wanted the world to know that I was funny. That fueled me. I was like, people have to know. I want people to know. And that really pushed me. And then also my kids, I was just like, man, I don't want my kids to see me like this when they get older. I don't want them to know me as their drunk loser dad. Like, I don't want that for them. I thought about my situation growing up and I was like, I want their situation to be better, you know, and I want them to be proud of me and brag about me. And so, those things, along with just feeling shitty. Like, I mean, when I tell you I just felt terrible and I was only like 23 years old, or no, I was in my mid 20s, but by this time, but I was just like, man, I just want to feel better too, or
Yeah.
like I'm going to die if I keep going.
So how'd you kick it? Like, how'd you get rid of the alcohol and the addiction? Was there something special? Something?
Absolutely. I think another thing too is I'm a heavy believer in God. I'm a firm believer in God, and I wanted to please God. I wanted to be in good graces with God. I wanted Him to accept me. And I knew I wasn't living in a way that he approved of, and that was a big push for me. And I just, yeah, I took the initiative and the steps and worked in accordance with my prayers, but I gotta give the credit to God, man, because honestly, I was helpless. Like I feel like he just picked me up and gave me the strength beyond what is normal so that I could get sober. Because I really was helpless, dude. Like I wanted to drink so bad,
Yeah.
and it's still a challenge. It gets easier as time goes on, but every now and then, I'm like, I could be watching a movie or something and they have a ice cold beer in the scene, and I'm like, my goodness, that looks good.
Yeah. Well, and
Like,
and you're also in an industry that makes it very tough,
yeah.
right? Like with green rooms and after
Oh,
parties
yeah.
and, being around different celebrities as you're traveling the country, like that has to be extremely
Oh,
difficult for you.
absolutely. But I'm super cautious. Like, I feel like the only way for me to succeed, I'm not going to say anyone because everyone's different, but for me, is I just can't put myself in certain situations. I just don't put myself in certain situations. Like, I do my show, I leave. That's it. I
Yeah.
don't go out, I don't hang out, I don't party. I don't do any of that. And I feel like if I did, I probably wouldn't be sober.
Yeah.
Now, can I be around alcohol? I can be around it, but I'm just not going to always put myself around it. Like every now and then, will I pop out, hang out? Yeah. But like, I'm not going to continually put myself in a situation where there's people drinking, doing drugs, having a good time, womanizing, doing all these things. Because if I continually do that, eventually I'm going to partake in that, right? Wouldn't
Mhm.
I? Eventually,
You would think so. I
especially, I
mean,
mean,
alcoholism is a disease, right?
if my
Like,
wife's not with me, if my friends are not with me, like if I'm just by myself and I keep putting myself in these situations, oh, bro, eventually I'm gonna be like, especially if I'm like, nobody's going to know,
right.
you know? So I just don't put myself in those situations. Now it's
S-
a lot easier if I'm with my wife and she's like, "You want to go hang out with someone?" Yeah, I got her with me, so I'm accountable, right?
Right.
Like, so it's different.
So you end up kicking the alcoholism, um, but things don't immediately get better for you.
Nah, it's a long journey.
Yeah. So what was that, what was that like? And I guess what I'm curious about is like you're like, okay, I want a better life. I want to do better for my family. I want to be able to support my kids. I want to be a man.
Hmm.
And you make the decision, you go cold turkey and kick the alcohol. And once you do that, things don't immediately turn around for you. So
Nah,
what were you thinking at that point? Like what were you going through at that moment where you're like, look, I can only imagine you're thinking, I'm doing the right things now and shit ain't getting better.
right. And that's how I know it was God, man, because I'm the most impatient person you'll ever meet. I have zero patience. I've got more than what I had, but I'm very impatient. And that's how I know he was with me because it was a long freaking journey, man. And there were plenty of times where I just wanted to go back to my old ways or just give up. And I just knew I had to keep going because I've tried that way so many times, right? And it never worked out that way. Chasing the girls, partying all the time, just chasing pleasure, immediate pleasure, right? Nothing ever came from that. All those years, bro. Nothing but bad mistakes, pain. So I had to keep reminding myself of that. That way doesn't work, Damon. It doesn't work. You have to stick to this. This has to give you a different turnout. It has to, because you're doing it differently. So I just had to trust the process. And that's why I tell people, trust the process. It's not going to happen overnight. If it does, cool, man. That's awesome. But it's not going to, or it might not. And so I just kept trusting the process, prayed. I went to therapy. I started seeing a therapist. I changed my diet. I got rid of a lot of my friends. I was working out every day. I made a lot of changes in my life, man. And then I got serious about my dreams and goals, which was stand up. And so I started doing that, started working at the comedy club. That became my drug. That became my alcohol, was stand up. So I got freaking anal about that, hyper focused on that, went hardcore on it, and it freaking paid off, man. I outworked everybody around me.
Yeah. Now you had the interesting piece, but before comedy started going good for you, you had a job as a correction officer, right?
Mhm.
How how'd that go for you, Damon?
I've done so many jobs. Went horrible. Went terrible. I
You
don't
lasted
know.
a long time at the prison though, right?
6 months?
That has to be a record, right? Like
Is
6
it?
months. Like they probably gave
For
you
me
they probably
or
gave you a
for a
certificate of service,
person?
I would imagine.
No, I didn't get anything. Oh, you messing with, I got you.
Yeah,
No,
no.
I did no, it was like 6 months. It's crazy because I've had so many jobs, man.
What
I've
made you
tried
decide to be a correction officer though?
the money
Yeah.
at the time, that it was good money. Now I would never say that's good money.
Right.
My perception of money then was different.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, 18 an hour plus over like all the overtime you want and all these benefits. I was like, man, this is great. And this was back in what, 20, I don't know, 16, 8, 17, something like that. It was a while back. So at the time, it was decent money, I guess, if you're just looking for a job, like a regular
Well,
job.
from what you had been doing up to that point, that was good money, right? Because you're
Yeah, I never had made that much.
like at that point, your best job, or at least I think it
No, yeah.
was like a supervisor at Walmart. Yeah.
Yeah, loss prevention. I was the loss prevention head guy, and I was making like 15 an hour, and I thought I was balling.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm making 15 an hour. Yeah. And yeah, with a dude with kids and shit, like, no, that's not okay, man.
So you take you I assume you take a test, you go through the hiring process, you get hired as a CO. You go through orientation, which is what they typically do.
Yeah.
Were you like, this is going to be my career? I'm going to be a correction
Yeah,
officer.
I really convinced myself, but I think I was this is how my brain works. This is why I'm mentally unstable and I'm not right. Because I was so focused on just the reward. Like I'm going to make this amount, I get these benefits, I'm going to be able my family's going to be straight. And that's how my brain was working. I was not thinking enough about the task, what I was going to have to do to get the money. I was just like, we'll deal with that when we get in here. It can't be that bad. But the shit was horrible.
Now you during the hiring process, were they at that time were they doing the psychological evaluations?
I think they did, but
How the
they
hell did you
missed
get
me.
through
Yeah,
that?
I slipped through the cracks. Bro, you know what was scary is like this chick, bro, she had got fired from another prison for some foul stuff, like bringing stuff in, hooking up with inmates, all kind of stuff. And she came and applied to the same prison that I got on in, like in a different city, obviously everything. And she slipped through and they hired her and they didn't catch her until like a couple months later. And I'm like, how did you guys miss that? How did you like hire this chick, put her on at another prison, and then like later on, I mean, cool, you guys caught it, but it's like, how did you even miss that? What if she was a freaking terrorist or something?
Yeah. Now where'd you get assigned to?
I got assigned to Madison Correctional Facility up in London.
Up in London, Ohio.
Yeah, London, Ohio. Yeah.
So they had some higher tier offenders there.
They
right?
did, and that's where they stuck me.
Yeah.
Yes, with the worst, because you know how this stuff works. I think veterans, they usually bid on the easy units, the safer ones.
Uh-huh.
That's how it works. The longer you're there, the more seniority you have, and you get to pick whatever you get first pick of what unit you want when you go in before the shift. And they'd always pick all the easy ones, the veterans, and then all the new guys would get stuck with all the hard offenders, the hardcore offenders, and it'd just be a nightmare.
So what as you get hired, you start in Madisonville and you're up there, but as a correction officer, when do you think the moment was where you're like, man, this shit ain't for me? Like, was there one of those moments?
Yeah, probably the first day on the job.
You made it to day one before you
Yeah.
realized that wasn't what
I'm
you wanted to do?
like, no, seriously, it was probably like sometime during the training, man, when they were showing us videos of violent stuff that would happen, and I was like, a lot of it was recent stuff, and I was like, what am I doing, bro? I need to get out of here now. But I had already like committed. I
Yeah.
had already committed. I had already, made promises to my wife and well, my girlfriend at the time, and I didn't want to let everybody down, you know, and I didn't want to fail again, so I kept going even though I knew I was making a huge mistake.
So you're in this prison. You're locked in with prisoners all day long in a pod. Probably you and maybe one other guard,
Yeah, this
or
is 2 per unit usually.
yeah. How many inmates were on the floor?
A lot. I don't know. What would you say? Like maybe 100 or like.
I've never worked in prison. I did
Oh,
16
okay.
years as a police officer, but there's one thing that I vowed I would never do.
Yeah.
I was cool with high speed pursuits. I was cool with fights. I was cool being in crazy situations.
Yeah.
But the one thing I never wanted to do in law enforcement, and look, all I ever wanted to do was be a cop growing up, right?
Yeah.
But I never ever dreamed of working in a prison and being locked in with a bunch of dudes all day long.
Yeah, I
Like
never dreamed
that
of
didn't
that either.
excite me.
No, that's yeah, there's nothing exciting about it. I mean, you're locked in a building. You're in prison. You're doing time.
You're in there.
Yeah, and then I think it didn't really hit me till I started doing it, and I was like, "Bro, I willingly went to prison without committing a crime."
As a black man.
Yeah, as a black man, what is wrong with me? For money,
Uh-huh.
for barely any money. Like, I'm losing my mind. So, yeah, that was a huge mistake.
So you get in there day one. And prisons are one of the most corrupt places in America.
Oh my gosh, they are.
Because honestly, you think that the pay was good at that point, but as we all get older and we do different things in our life, our perception of money, our perception of wealth,
And you acquire stuff.
it all changes, right?
Yeah.
So, 18, $19 an hour, like, that's not really that good,
No.
right? So a lot of COs, not a lot, but okay, a lot of
Yeah,
COs
a lot.
end up being corrupted by
Yes.
prisoners for various reasons. Either they're afraid of the prisoners because, prisoners have a very creative way to
Oh,
find
master
out information on you
manipulators.
and your family and manipulate you.
Yeah.
And then there's also the money piece that's out there for COs that's like, hey man, you slide in a phone for me, or bring me some cigarettes or whatever,
Yeah.
and we're gonna cut you, whatever. Did you see any of that as a CO?
I did. I seen COs, even like the higher ups. I'd see them get walked out. I know one of the like head CO guys that was in charge. He was bringing in phones, and he only had like one more year to go to retire, and they busted him.
Really?
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. And yeah, man, I'd see chicks get walked out for hooking up with prisoners, and then I had prisoners offering me stuff like, "Hey, if you ever want to make some extra money, man, let me know." And I'm like, "What?" Then you got to document all that, and it was rough.
Did you ever fall victim to it?
No,
You
I
never
said
slipped in an extra cell phone or pack of
no
cigarettes?
because I'm way too afraid of going to jail.
Yeah,
So I just didn't have it in me. I didn't want to get no case or end up in there with them.
sure.
So I was like, nope. But then because I didn't play ball, they made it really hard on me, man. They wouldn't listen to me. I couldn't get them to lock down. So they made my job really hard, and I just started failing at the job because they basically told me if you don't play ball, we'll just get you out of here and get somebody that will. That's how they operated.
Yeah.
And then you'd always wonder, like, how are these other COs getting their units to do everything they want? And that's how most of the time is because they give them stuff. They give
Mhm.
them what they want,
Right.
and then they play game. They play ball because they're like, okay, you did what we asked you. Now we'll listen to you and make your job easy so you can keep your job. And that's how usually it goes.
Yeah. I think, like, in my opinion, there's two ways that COs are successful when they're in, when they're in prison with these guys on lockdown.
Yeah,
You can tell me if I'm wrong.
yeah,
The first way is that they give them stuff, they slip things into them, they let them violate some rules or whatever,
hmm
and the prisoners will listen to them. The second way is you're a badass, and these guys know you're going to jack them up if they step
Oh
out of line.
yeah. You beat the shit out of them.
But other than that, there's no other
there's
way.
no medium.
Like, there's not a middle ground.
No, there's no. You're definitely not doing what you learned in the academy,
No.
and they're just listening. I don't care what CO tells you that they're lying,
Yeah.
dude. You're not that good to where you just do what you were taught to do, and they're just listening to you because they respect you. No, bro. You're either beating the shit out of them or you're bringing them stuff in.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a lower level prison, it's a little bit different because
That's
these people
different.
have
Yeah.
a
They're going
light at
home.
the end of the tunnel. They're
Yeah,
going to
they're
go home.
going home and they
But you're
don't
there with
want
dudes
to.
with like that got 15, 20 life sentences.
Oh, yeah.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah, I
They
had
don't care.
lifers in my unit.
Yeah,
bro. They
what are they
weren't
gonna do?
going.
They go
Give them another life.
They're gonna get jammed up. You're gonna give them another day. Like,
Yeah,
what
they
the
don't
fuck
care.
does that mean?
They don't got nothing to lose, bro. So they don't give a damn. But you got, you go to the level ones where they can walk outside. They got a rec center. They got pool tables in the unit. They're open bays. These guys are all going home. The longest they're in there is maybe 5 years or something.
All right. So, how did your lengthy career, 6 months as a CON, like, did you quit? Did you get fired?
No, a fight broke out in my unit, and I basically got scared and froze up and didn't break it up because I'm not a fighter. I don't like confrontation. I'm not a tough guy, and I got scared, to be honest. I didn't know what to do, and I knew I wasn't about to get in the middle of that shit.
Right.
And so, yeah, they basically let me go after that because they was like, you didn't even try to break it up. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was actually relieved when they told me they were going to let me go. I was so happy. I was hoping I would be let go that day, but they made me finish my shift.
Oh,
But
man.
I was hoping, like, man, can I leave now?
You were just ready to be done. You knew
Yeah,
that wasn't what you were going to do.
I was just ready to go. Yeah, I knew at that point, because I was still trying to do, I was still rapping at that time. I was still trying to rap, but it was like positive rap and stuff. And I was kind of thinking, like, how am I going to do this and be a CEO?
Yeah.
But
So you get let go of a decent paying job at the time.
yeah.
And it sounds to me like that was like probably your first like decent paying professional job in your adult life.
Yeah.
I mean, you had other jobs like Walmart, as a supervisor, loss
Yeah,
prevention,
the
things like
first
that.
one was Walmart, and it kind of went up
Yeah.
from there to the CO thing, and then
So now you're starting over though.
yeah, now I'm
Like
starting
not all the way
over.
starting over because at least at this point you're sober, right?
Yeah,
But were you married at that time?
pretty much. I mean, I was dating my wife at the time.
How'd she
And
take it when you came home and said, I got fired from the prison, babe?
she was pretty bummed. She wasn't being mean or anything. She was pretty supportive, but I could tell she was disappointed, and I felt bad, because I knew she was going to have to pick up my slack, and so I just started looking for another job.
So you're relieved, you said from not have to work at the prison anymore, but was there another component where you were your mental health affected at all, or did it trigger any thoughts of wanting to go back to alcohol at all, or was it like, no, this is actually you're inside feeling like, okay, this is positive in my life, I didn't want to be there?
I think the defeat, the failing again, definitely got me down. I mean, yeah, I didn't want to be in there, and I didn't really want to do it, but I still failed,
Yeah.
and it kind of got me down. And I just kind of felt like I was never going to find my thing, and I was never going to be able to provide for my family. I was just going to be forever relying on someone. And I just, I kind of got in that. Did I want to drink? Don't really remember. I don't think that I did. I don't think it was that bad to where I wanted to go booze it up, but definitely was down about it and felt defeated.
So what was your plan at that time? Like, what were you going to do?
Well, I was still trying to do the rap thing on the side. I was making rap videos and posting them online and stuff. But I was just like, well, I just got to find some job. So I was just looking for another measly minimum wage paying job. Didn't really have much of a plan, but like shortly after that, I forget what my next job was. Trying to think. I'm pretty sure I ended up at the furniture store, at a furniture store. I was working at Lower Valley Furniture over here in, you know where it is?
Yeah, right off Route 4
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And those
I could see
guys,
myself buying a couch from you.
yeah, yes, dude, I was a great salesman. And those guys, I didn't even think I was going to get the job. My wife had sent me the link from Facebook, and she said, "Here, see if they'll give you a job." And she was like, "You'll be good at this, selling furniture." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I'm thinking they ain't gonna give me a job. So I just go in there knowing that I'm not gonna get the job. And they loved me, man. It's like a family owned spot.
Mhm.
And those guys were goofballs like me. And I couldn't believe it. It was literally the funnest job I had ever had outside of comedy. And I mean, I would clown with those guys. They would cut me so much slack and just let me slack off. I'd be on my phone and everything, but my sales were, I was a beast. I could sell furniture to anybody. And it was a really, really cool job, man. So around that, I skipped some stuff, but around that time, I had started working at the Funny Bone in Dayton as a door guy. My wife had actually talked me into applying there because this was around the time I decided I was going to let go of the rap and start taking comedy more serious. And we were walking around in the green and we saw the Funny Bone. And I'm looking at this Funny Bone like it's a freaking mega church.
Yeah.
Like that's how it looks in my eyes. I'm like, wow, the Funny Bone. Like that's crazy. She's like, why don't you put in an application? I'm like, they're not going to hire me. They don't just hire anybody. That's what I'm thinking. Like you got to have a degree to work there.
Mhm.
And so I grab an app. She talks me into it. I grab an application, fill it out to be like to wash dishes or serve or door guy, whatever position they'll give me. And I call them for like 2 weeks straight. I'm just bugging the hell out of them. And finally, they call me in for an interview, give me the job on the spot as a door guy. So I'm like seating people slash security. Um, and then the rest is history, man. I start networking and doing guest spots and hitting open mics. And
What was your first guest spot?
my first guest spot was it? I want to say it was with Tony Rock, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty 99% sure it was Tony Rock. And I remember when I saw him for the first time, I was like, wow, like that dude is freaking hilarious, man. Like, I didn't even know who he was at first. I didn't even know Chris had a brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this dude's funnier than Chris. Like, he's hilarious. And I remember telling myself, I want to be as good as him. I want to be that funny. And he gave me that spark that just fueled me. Like,
Yeah. Do you remember how you got that guest spot? I mean, he didn't
uh,
just like pick the door guy at the Funny Bone out of the blue and say, "Hey,
nah,
man, like."
he had came down off stage and he went to go do his meet and greet. And I got him right before he came out of the green room. And I said, hey, do you think I could get a guest spot? And he was like, yeah, man, sure. And it was that easy. And I did the guest spot. And I barely had any material. I had barely 5 minutes. It wasn't tight. It was rough. And I went up and I crushed it.
Did good on the
Oh,
first
I
one?
did good. Oh, you know what? The first one, I'm sorry. The first one was Country Wayne. I think first one was Country Wayne. Yeah, that was my first one. Tony Rock was my second one. So sorry about that. I don't know how I forgot the Country Wayne one. Oh yeah, because I bombed. That's why I forgot it.
You're trying to
Trauma,
leave it out.
trauma blocking it out. No, so Country Wayne, I went up, I bombed. I was not ready. Barely had any material. And I got maybe 2 laughs throughout the whole 5 minutes I was up there. So, I've never went on stage and got 0 laughs ever. My bombs are different. Everybody's bombs are different.
Mhm.
My bombs are not no laughs, like silence type shit. And I've never been booed off stage, but I got maybe 2 laughs and it was rough. And then I remember after the show, I'm cleaning up the tables because I had to go back to doing my job after my set. and I'm cleaning up the tables. The club's emptying out. Country Wayne walks by with his little entourage, and he's like, "Hey, keep going, man." And now I keep going. Now he follows me on Instagram.
Did he ever give you a guest spot again or invite you back out?
No,
No.
no. You know what? I actually reached out to his homeboy like a year later because I had gotten way better. If you know anything about comedy, 3 months, 2 months, you're way better. If you're working, you just get so much better with time.
Yeah.
Like the shortest amount of time, like 6 months. Someone could see you 6 months later after they saw you, and you could be a completely different comic.
Sure.
If you're working, if you're getting, putting in the work. And I was putting in the work. I was on stage like 4 times a week.
Now, as you're
So
doing this, you're getting guest spots and things like that, but you're not getting paid to do these guest spots, right?
no, absolutely not. You're just getting the opportunity to get better,
Yeah.
and you're thankful for that.
So did you catch?
But I reached out to Country Wayne, that person, that second time, and he was like, "No, he's not." After that set, he's not doing any more guest spots for a while. And I was like, "Nah, but I'm good now." And I was so eager to show them how much
Yeah.
better I got. And even like thinking back to then, I wasn't good, but I was a lot better than what I was.
Yeah.
Now I'm good, but you know,
So do you give very much credit to Country Wayne for putting you on? the
yeah, I appreciate
first spot?
everybody who's given me an opportunity. D. Ray Davis gave me a couple of spots. Country Wayne, Tony Rock. Who else? I think Pete Lee gave me a spot one time. There's a couple more that I'm forgetting. Tony, who's the dude that does the voiceovers? The bald dude.
I know you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Forget his name. I'm so sorry, bud. But I forget his name. But he gave me a guest spot. Yeah, there's a handful of guys. I'm probably missing some, but I'm thankful for all of them.
So you're doing these guest spots. You're not getting paid at this point. Did you get a break at some point doing the stand up just through stand up, or was there something else that kind of propelled that?
No, yeah, I did get breaks. The time came where I started getting hosting gigs through clubs. And then the time came where I got my first feature gig through a club. And I pretty much I would say I skipped the feature stage pretty much because I only did one feature weekend. And that was at a Wiley's Comedy Club here in Dayton. And they gave me a feature slot. It was as my social media was starting to get bubble. And right after that weekend, I like slaughtered that whole weekend, dude.
For those that maybe watching this that don't understand
Yeah.
how the comedy scene works, you have a headliner, and then you have feature spots
and then you
underneath
have a
them,
host.
and then sometimes you might have a guest spot which is unpaid, but the features usually get a little bit of money.
Yeah,
right?
the features usually do okay. It's
Yeah.
nothing like what the headliner gets, but it's way better than what the host gets.
Yeah.
And then, so especially if you do a full weekend of like 5 shows, you're going to do okay. So I did really well that weekend. And the thing is, I wasn't even ready to feature. I didn't have enough material. I had maybe 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
And you need like 20 to 25. And really, you need more than that. I was like, I can because I'm funny off the cuff and like in the moment. And I don't really need to have material. And so that's what I started doing. And I started riffing, and I was getting through my set. I was doing 20, 25 easily. And then before you know it, I was creating jokes off the riffing. I would walk away with bits, really strong bits. Like, oh, that's part of my set now. But anyways, after that weekend of featuring, I did so well, they gave me a headlining spot. Normally, you would have to feature for a while, like probably some years before they would start giving you a headlining spot.
Yeah.
But
And at this point, your social media wasn't like crazy at that point.
it wasn't insane, but it was decent. I had some people who were reaching out to me who were wanting to represent me and be my booking agent. And I I went through one guy before I'm with the guy I got now, and he got me a few gigs, but the guy I got now, he like works with bigger comics. And, now I'm in all the big rooms now.
Yeah.
You know.
So at what point did you decide to focus on social media? Because that's been a big part of your strategy, right?
Yeah. Well, I just always knew how important social media was to this. Like you have to do it. Like if you want to be a comic with a fan base, you have to do social media. That's the only way. Otherwise, it's going to take you forever. And you're not going to be on social media. How are you going to build your fan base?
Right.
Like 5 people at a time. Every time you do a show, the 5 people that follow you.
Yeah. Now your platforms are rocking right now. Like how many you hit 1 million? You hit over 1 million on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I'm at 2.2 million on TikTok. I'm at 928,000 on IG. 718,000 on.
You know what I think is important for people to know about you, and you can tell me if I'm off. People immediately, society, other comics, immediately think that this guy is only what he is because of social media. You didn't have like a viral video that just blew up and like that created your stardom. Like you were grinding in the clubs, you were doing guest work, you were hosting, you were on stages.
I wasn't just pumping out videos. I was in the clubs, like you said. I was driving 4 hours to do an open mic. I was really grinding. So if you're on the internet, and I wasn't really posting a lot of stuff because I wasn't that good yet.
Right.
But I didn't have no viral clips. And I was still getting booked at clubs. I was doing both at the same time. I finally am where I'm at now. And it's funny because the thing that worked the most is where I really just leaned on being myself.
Yeah.
I was like, obviously I tweaked it a little bit. Like you can't even really call my videos pranks because I'm not really pranking. I'm really just hanging out. Just talking, just being me.
But there's some OG comics out there, some of the old school guys, some great comedians that probably don't give the credit to guys like you and other comedians like you that have a huge internet following because, terms I've heard is, hey, that guy's just an internet hoe.
Yeah,
you know, and maybe they don't understand what really went into that.
Again, a lot of people don't know my story. They don't know. And like I was not sleeping, dog. I was hungry and I wanted it by any means necessary. I am very eager for everyone to find out. And people are finding out. People that come out to my shows, they're like, man, they'll be in the meet and greet line. I didn't know you did stand up. Oh my gosh, you're good. Like, so I've seen so many internet people and they're just horrible.
Yeah.
And they make a bad name for stand up. And it's because they didn't do the stand-up while they were grinding online. So then when they blew up online, I don't have to just do that to be funny. I can be funny this way too.
So you've spent half your morning with me, man.
Yeah, it's over.
I appreciate it.
Holla, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath.